Hey everyone, I'm Ingrid Ahumada.
Hello folks, I'm Rick Meekins.
Join us for the next half hour on Epiphany Off the Cuff, where we will discuss what's going on in the entrepreneur community.
Hey everybody, I want to welcome you to another episode of Epiphany Off the Cuff. Thanks so much for joining us. Today we have in our studios Charles and Danica, and of course we have the lovely Ingrid. Hello everyone.
Hello, great to be here.
Hello. It's good to have you today, Danica and Charles.
Yeah, thanks for having us. And wish we could do it in the studio, but we're virtual, we adapt. This is what we do in business, right?
That's what we do. We do. So we are now on episode 9, if you can believe that. This is
amazing.
It seemed like yesterday we were just starting this out, and then now it's just like, and you guys, audience, if you don't know, these lovely folks, they are incredible marketers, and we actually went to them and said, hey, how do we do what we do better? And they've given us some amazing ideas, and of course, because of that, we decided that we wanted to have them on the show and give you guys some of a little pinch of what they've given us. So. Any questions before we get started, guys? Any thoughts?
No, it's really excited to, share some of our knowledge with your audience. And, we love to see small businesses succeed. So if we can help contribute to that in even a tiny little way, we're very glad and happy to do so.
100%.
Awesome. You guys are awesome.
That's so great. That's so great to hear. So let me start, Rick, with one question that I have to do. How do you make it, guys? You are a couple, right?
Yes.
Okay, so how do you make it to work? How do you make it to do all of this together? I mean, that's amazing.
Well, yeah, thank you. We actually, funnily enough, had this exact question on another podcast literally this week. How do you work with family? How do you make that work together? Because a lot of people would say, oh, if I was working with my husband, I'd kill him. And so the number one thing I think that's crucial to all of this is huge dashes of vulnerability and the willingness to communicate with each other. You have to have zero ego, and you have to have the willingness to be open, whether that's critical or whether that's positive or whether you're trying to amp each other up or get through the day. I mean, you can definitely speak to getting me through the day, right?
Yeah, sometimes you have to take the different roles. And the biggest thing for me is kind of playing to your strengths, know what your strengths are. I'm very much more like the operations organizational side, whereas Danica is very much the creative side. So we kind of know where our roles fall, and, we complement each other. So there's a real good push-pull relationship. We had this conversation a couple of weeks ago. We were saying if we're both creatives, it wouldn't work because we both would see something in a creative way, trying to execute on that. And the amount of times we say to each other, like, do you trust me? And we've learned over the years, yes, okay, all right. So I'll come in and try to give advice on a design. She'll just say, do you trust me? And it's like, yes, okay. And I back off. Or when I say, all right, let's do this. And then we've got to project manage this. And I say, do you trust me? And she just backs off and lets it go. Because at some point, you have to stick to your roles.
Yeah, it's that level of trust, right? Which you can only achieve if you let go of ego, right? Mm-hmm. So those, I think, are the main parts.
Yeah, that's completely understood and amazing advice at the same time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's not. And you make it sound like it's an effortless step, but it's really not. It's something that takes a lot of practice, even though we are good communicators with each other. That's a natural skill that we happen to have. You have to develop these things over time and accept that maybe sometimes you're going to mess up, like anything, right? Okay. As long as you're willing to try and make it work, I think it's a good thing.
Yep.
Great.
Awesome. Well, let's jump into the questions we actually have for you for today. What are you guys having for dinner tonight? No, I'm just kidding. One of the questions that we've had, or one of the questions that we have is, with obviously everything has changed, over the past, 7-8 months now? Oh my gosh. It's been 8 months. And so, prior to the pandemic, prior to COVID, there was a method that, there were methods that, we're getting used to, let's say, for going after, going to market, building that tribe, building that group of people that you were going to market to. And then, obviously the pandemic, quarantine, everything changed everything. And so, I mean, this is probably like, the biggest question, what do you guys see? What are you guys seeing happening in the marketplace in terms of the change and finding a tribe and connecting with them and engaging with them?
I think one of the biggest shifts we've seen is people are feeling more comfortable sharing a little bit more now, just because you see ESPN producers, entertainment channel producers, or reporters from their homes that look similar to yours with recording equipment that is just like yours. So the excuse, we always call it an excuse, but the excuse of having the best equipment kind of goes out the window, because everybody else, even the people that have access to those high-end cameras, don't use them. Right. So there's a level of more comfort in actually using what you've got, but that doesn't mean that it's easier for them to actually share, if that makes sense. I think that there's still a lot of people out there who have their businesses and they have to market in a different way. One of those ways is social media. And one of the big hangups with social media, even before the pandemic, but it's become a little more magnified now, is who cares about what I'm posting? Every time I post, I only get like a couple of responses. I hear crickets. But especially now, like if you're only starting to build now, like this is something that happens always in the beginning, right? If you start out and you get 1,000 likes right away, I mean, that kind of never happens.
Right.
Unless you have a piggyback following. You have to build over time. I think that the same psychological and emotional barriers are still there for wanting to get out there and create the right kind of content to build your tribe. But the barriers of having to do that and feeling like you're quote unquote not enough for not having the right equipment, et cetera, I think that is diminished. But I mean, do you agree with what I'm saying here?
Yeah, I mean, I want to touch on it from a broader perspective that I think this has forced change faster than people wanted it to happen, but the world was going that way anyway. The Amazonification of the world, of people shopping online.
Amazonification? Yeah.
Yeah, it was just coming down the pipe anyway. So businesses needed to adapt, and it's basically just put us 5 to 10 years further down the line than what it would have been, anyway.
So the people that weren't already leveraging social media before the pandemic are kind of gathering everything now and trying to rush with everybody else because they hadn't been doing it before. And in some ways, they are a little late to the party, right? So people that are just joining Instagram now, I mean, it's still good to be on there, of course, but the organic reach today is way lower than it was 5 years ago, right? Et cetera. So, it's a bit joining late to the party. It's still good, but yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying there.
Yeah.
About things being pushed down on.
Okay, so what I understand is you think that there are like pros and cons. I mean, you see that there are things that are easier right now, but at the same time, you think it's just the same as before, or do you think that has changed?
A lot's changed. Businesses have really had to adapt, with restaurants, doing takeout and things like that. Some industries have absolutely exploded. Even for us, we've started a new business, Complete Outside, and that's absolutely, exploded and taken off faster than we ever could have imagined. But the flip side to that is, if you were kind of unlucky enough, and at that point it is just unluck, with a travel business or something like that, there's not a lot you can do.
An event business, wedding planning, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's very hard to adapt, which is just tragic. So yeah, some businesses need to get better at having an online store, communicating, online, putting out a podcast, or, adapting to Zoom calls, as we've seen with companies like Facebook, Microsoft. They're just saying to their staff, hey, you don't need to come in anymore. It can save them huge money in the long run by, having someone in the middle of Ohio versus paying Silicon Valley wages. So in that basis, it's been very useful. But if you need to be there like a bowling alley, you've really suffered, and there's not a lot you can do to fight that.
Right. I think, I don't know, guys, but I think like there's I can find like a point in the, let's say, in the middle between two things. I mean, for example, from one side, I see that there's like a lot of, you can get overwhelmed because of the load of information that you can get. So that gets people and creative and digital creators to get more like what they have. I mean, so it's challenging because nowadays you can see a lot of creative people putting out things like really, really amazing. So that challenge you to be like more creative and more creative, and you start like to have a really high peak of things that you don't always are in the mood to create, right? So it's like really, really challenging. But at the same time, there's like, I completely agree with you that it's easier to maybe just share what you think, and it doesn't matter if people like or dislike, right? You're just sharing. So that's the best way and unique way to find your real tribe. But I think like at the same time, right now with this overload of information, it's more like it's difficult because it requires, I mean, demands from you like being more and more creative and pushing out things like every day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, the thing to that is that everyone starts somewhere, and these things come with practice and time. You have to work that creative muscle, that getting better. So if you just turn that camera on, then, I'm sure your 9th podcast, hopefully this one's going to come out better quality wise and everything else than your first one. And every step you're making that little incremental change. And then, we can just go and look on YouTube or Google everything. So if you want to look up how to get better audio quality or, how to edit a TikTok video, there's so many tutorials out there for free. That, you just got to be not scared to take that first step and realize like, it's probably going to be your worst one. If you go look at some of these amazing creators that, everyone admires online, and you scroll all the way to the bottom of their Instagram feed and you look at that first picture, it's probably not great unless they've really edited it and deleted it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or archive it. Yeah.
Yeah. Another aside to that is that it also, building a social media presence in particular, a successful one, isn't just about pushing content. It's about creating community, right? Mm-hmm. People want to know that you're not just in it for a sale. So that community aspect gets lost on a lot of people because they view social media as a digital billboard for everything that they do or sell. Mm-hmm. When you should be actively trying to converse with people, bring them into the conversation. This other business that we started that has done well, we've done a good job of doing that, particularly because we were able to get people in and start talking about the product, right? Talking about their experience, their story. The product that we're selling is actually really hard to come by. So whenever we're able to ship it out to people, they have these stories about, oh, thank goodness, like I've been out of this for 8 months, and they just have, there's no end to what they're saying. Like they just have so much to say about it. So cultivating that is harder for some industries, right? We'll be honest, like doing it for something like insurance or mortgage, probably a little more difficult, but it's not impossible, because if you look at the TikTok of that mortgage guy, he's got what, like 6K or like 6 figures of followers because he's
200,000, something like that, followers, just talking about how to get a mortgage. On TikTok, which is deemed a young kids platform.
And he's like, he's our age, late 20s, but he's able to flex the creative muscle, but also create community over what he is showing, like the creativity that he's showing in the videos, plus how he interacts with his followers, create that successful community. So it's not just pushing things out.
Exactly.
Cool. It's so weird, seeing like 2 people in the same room. It's just like blowing my mind. It's like a line that just happens to go like right.
Yeah, it's an optical illusion.
Right. So I was having a conversation with someone earlier today, and it was about creating his Instagram presence, and and part of that conversation, in that conversation just came up the need for authenticity. Now, I'm a bit older than you guys, but one of the things that we're taught, like in business school and that sort of thing, is to show up. You have to be a certain way, in the ties and the pinstripes and that sort of thing. So when we take that to, or not take that, but with relation to social media, digital presence, and that sort of thing. I mean, what is that balance? You know, where is authenticity versus, showing up with, some sort of presence that represents, whatever brand you're representing?
I think, you just got to be authentic, because if you're not being authentic, then people aren't going to like you when they meet you, because depending on what you're selling, they're going to have some kind of interaction with you. So if you become across as very professional suit and tie, and that's not really you, you're going to kind of let that slip when they meet you face to face.
So you can't hide it if you're uncomfortable.
Now, I'm not saying you're not going to lose some customers, from, like maybe you show up, in a sweatshirt. But if that's you, you'll probably gain other customers who would have been put off by the suit and tie.
Because you're being who you are. I think the prerequisite for authenticity must be self-awareness, right? Like if you're trying to fill a mold that you think is going to get you sales, you're probably going to fail unless that mold matches you very, very well, right? Like I can do the business suit thing. I was taught to do the same exact thing before we were all stopping from going from offices anymore, right? And then people are putting less and less importance on it, because as the millennial generation starts to infiltrate all the offices, I feel like it is becoming more casual, right? So I think that, tying what Charles and I have both said, I think that authenticity is a must-have, especially with the Gen Zs and the millennials and even the Xers coming in, because I think people don't like to hear or smell or deal with any kind of BS. Mm-hmm. And if they can sense it, then they're not liking you anymore. But I think that first step of self-awareness can be a roadblock for a lot of people, because they've been told for so long, you have to fit this mold in order to be listened to. You have to fit this mold in order to be something. But right now, like, especially with social media being what it is, where you can make a presence based on exactly who you are and what you do, it's becoming less relevant advice now, if that makes sense.
So social media is just going all the way back to what it was, when it was a very small town and people said, to your next door neighbor, oh, who's your insurance agent? And they would give a recommendation over the fence. Social media is the same principle, just on a bit of a larger scale. It's, what are people saying about you? How are you interacting with people? The same as you would have bumped into them in the supermarket, or down at your local bar or restaurant. Social media is that same world, just digitalized.
Yeah, proliferated word of mouth on the electronic, in the electronic world.
I love that. Great.
Nice.
And it sounds like that would be foundational for our topic. In terms of building a tribe, we're building our tribe. We need to show up authentically, get the people around us that like us for who we are, connect with them, communicate with them, grow with them. And, perhaps there'll be an opportunity to do business.
Exactly. It's hard. I feel like when a lot of people approach us with certain questions, they seem to want a how-to guide from how to get the most followers, etc.
And fast. People are always looking for speed.
Yeah. Like anything, right? How can I do it and how fast can I do it and all this? But if you don't do these foundational steps, I mean, it's kind of like working out, right? If you don't put in the work every day and you don't have a clear plan and you don't know why you're working out, you're not going to keep doing it. We know about that with the working out, but like
everyone wants that magic pill. You just, you take it and you wake up the next morning with a 6-pack, but that doesn't exist. Social media, building that tribe community is the same thing. Now, it's a bit like a steam train. It builds up momentum. But getting it up to speed takes a long time and a lot of effort. It's not you're going to throw one post out there. You need to be posting multiple times a day for months. And then, there's a bit of luck. The more lottery tickets you buy, the greater your chance of going viral. So that's why, we recommend putting out more posts. Also, you're just engaging every single time. You're pulling, maybe one person into that circle, and it's slowly building. A bit like, with our community, with one of our new businesses, we're picking up 40 new followers or something a day because we've got that freight train up to speed.
Yes. And we were able to do it in such a way that it was a bit faster, but they do say that the second 1,000 followers are easier to get than the first 1,000. And we found that to exactly be true, because when no one really knows who you are at first, it's exponential, right? So like a lot of people don't know you, little bit. and then it starts really climbing. And that's the curve a lot of these situations follow. And we found that the case with this other business we're doing.
Awesome.
I am sure that you have maybe found challenges on the way, or maybe with your clients or yourself. I mean, what do you think is more difficult to do or more challenging? So that we know that it's not being like you or pushing our content. What do you think it's maybe from the technical side of it, or which channel is maybe more challenging?
For me, I think it's, you got to be positive and keep at it day after day. There's going to be days when you get out of bed and you really don't want to, put that work in on your small business. But what it boils down to is you've got to put the work and the time into it. So, I mean, there's always challenges outside of that, of course. But if you don't have that attitude to be able to tackle those problems and that enthusiasm, then you're really going to struggle. We really try to come from a place of, being thankful and grateful that, we have a roof over our head, we've got food in the fridge. Even the fact that, we have internet and we can have this conversation over the internet means we are so much more advanced than so many people in the world. We have so many opportunities. So when you look at life from that perspective, for me, it gives me that energy that like, well, no matter what problem there is, I have to adapt, and, maybe you have to take not one step back, but 10 steps back. And I read something the other day that I loved. Someone said, don't look at it like, taking a few steps back. Think of it like a slingshot. You have to go backwards sometimes to be able to propel yourself forward. And that really resonated with me. I love that.
And tying what you've said about having the mental fortitude, I think it's important to remember that there is a lot of content out there as well that you are trying to that you are entering the pool of, and then you're also trying to rise up and be the one that people notice. Mm-hmm. So it is a lot to think about just being one island in the middle of millions of islands. But that's where the mental fortitude comes to play, because if you don't have that, you will burn out, you will feel discouraged, and you won't feel the push to want to create every day, or however many days it takes, for how many years it takes. Gary Vaynerchuk famously recorded his Wine Library TV show on YouTube for 7 or 8 years before he was even remotely discovered. And now he's, a multinational, millions of followers personality, mm-hmm. because he had the fortitude in those 8 years to just keep doing that show day after day after day. It's not easy, but it's worth it when you get to those benchmarks that you put there for yourself, I think.
Sure.
So that said, I think so that's not for everyone then.
Yeah, much like, starting a business isn't for everyone. And there's different layers of business, right? You can have a side hustle versus, a full-time business versus a multinational billion-dollar business.
And that's where you guys come in, right? And really helping people scale and going
yes.
from one to the next, that's a real challenge. That's not easy to deal with.
Yeah, there's all sorts of operational strategic.
You're patting yourself on the back saying, great, we're growing. And all of a sudden, how do I manage this now? And then you feel that feeling of overwhelm. So you very quickly go from that elation to, can I swear on it? I don't know if I can swear, but
No, but you're right. Like, there's just so many levels of business. And then when you deal with scaling as well, I mean, you can see firsthand those obstacles that come up: emotional, mental, financial, operational, all of these things. And so you can understand that there, we don't want to necessarily say it's not for everyone, like, only an elite few can do it, because that's not the case, right? Hard work and patience are really big parts of this. But at the same time, you do have to have that resilience factor. And I think that is an absolute must for anyone starting out in business or building business or growing a business.
Yeah, I mean, an interesting point kind of tacking on to the end of that. I don't know if you guys saw the story of Dogface, and I can't remember the series of numbers afterwards, but he did the ocean spray video.
Oh, yeah.
And he gave an interview that he was working in, living in a trailer.
Well, do you know the ocean spray video, first of all?
I don't know.
No.
Definitely about that story.
There's a guy on TikTok who made a video and his car had broken down. Then he skateboarded home, and it was set to the music of Fleetwood Mac's Dreams. So the song vaguely. And so he's skateboarding, and he's got the ocean spray bottle in his hand. Yeah. So you remember. So that went completely viral. Ocean Spray actually gifted him a car for publicity.
He said he wasn't going to post a video, and it's not a crazy edited good video.
No,
he just posted it. So I saw this week he purchased his first house in cash. He was hanging out with Snoop Dogg. You are one video, one post away from going totally viral and your life changing. So don't overthink that video.
Because if you Google ocean spray video and you look at it, you'll think the same as us. Like, that is not, like, production value isn't really there, but it captivated the world, you know? He made national advertising and everything.
Yep.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Yeah, you guys managed to talk me into doing my authentic video, and so I guess I took the plunge, and I've done it, just about once every week, and it's I don't think you get much more authentic than that. So I mean, from you guys, I mean, what would you recommend, to someone else, perhaps that needs to start to, I'll just say, needs to start to present authentically, needs to, as that personal branding component, of their company's overall marketing. What would you recommend to someone that's just starting to dabble in that, how to get started, what they can do to, perhaps come up with content, keep themselves motivated, and that sort of thing?
Well, one, you can always learn. Like, I don't think anything's going to be a waste of time. But what you have to realize is that this conversation's been going on for a long time. People historically said, what's the point of doing a radio ad? And then people said, well, I don't need to be on a TV station. Like, that doesn't make sense. Why am I in the yellow pages? Why do I need a website? This chain's continued on, and social media is just this next wave. I'm not going to say it's past, but, we're getting deep into it now. If you're still standing on the sidelines, just put a toe in the water and just start and kind of just trust in the process, because you don't want to be looking back at it being that person who was like, well, why do I need a website? And, I'm sure we can all remember those people who said, oh, the internet's a fad.
That happened.
That happened. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, if you're looking for something more tactical in terms of what's something I can talk about for a minute, people have trouble coming up with random content on the spot, right? I mean, there's, several ways you could go about it. You could do an FAQ. What questions do you get all the time that people ask you and you're kind of sick of answering, but you can finally put online so that people can see it? Mm-hmm. That is more relevant to service businesses, I think, sometimes, but I think any business could really do it. Any goals for the month, the year, the decade, the day? Are there any kind of a recent thing that you wanted to, show off? Or is there a recent thing that you're disappointed about that you want to share with people that might know what you're feeling? Those are just some random ideas from my head, where it's kind of a habit that you have to build in terms of putting, actually filming the content. I actually struggle with putting the camera on myself and just talking myself. And I'm a social media professional, right? Because I suddenly feel like, oh, there's a spotlight on me. What do I say? But if you have some stuff prepared, or if you have some idea of what you want to say, people get that you'll and ah a little bit. That's no big deal. Mm-hmm. But if I find it helps to maybe write down a couple points that you want to say before you say it. That's just the way I operate. Mm-hmm. You're more off the cuff. There you go. Yeah. You're more off the cuff, but you're more. Yeah, little plug. But
just document, don't create. What are you doing that day? If you're a business owner and your whole day is you doing your, business taxes, which we all have to do that, that once a year, hopefully more than once a year. Yeah. Just film yourself hey, is it just me, or does everyone else hate doing their business taxes? Mm-hmm. Or, just document it. Don't overthink. It doesn't have to be this magical creation video that, you're seeing all the time that has all this production value. Just document what you're doing with your day. Talk about it, the ups and the downs, and I wish I could be out, selling to you guys or helping clients rather than doing this tax, but the IRS has got to get paid. That's a funny video that people will relate to.
Mm-hmm. And people are loving time lapses right now. This is just a random tidbit of information. The time lapse feature on the iPhone. I don't know if Android has it, but anyway, so just you literally put the phone there on your desk and let it go for a while you're working. That's content. That's you doing your thing. And it can be that simple. It's because it seems mundane to you, doesn't mean it's going to be mundane to other people. We got an Aero garden planter in the kitchen. not too long ago. And even that has been interesting to people on my social media feed. I never, people are like, I have one too. How are you doing it? What, seed pods did you use? Like anything even micro like that.
Yeah, you've been showing what you've been cooking and stuff like that, which has been gathering thousands of views for some of the videos.
Yeah, for Instagram Reels, yeah.
Rick has some good recipes.
Yes.
You see, Rick, you need to post about that.
Yeah, maybe.
Some tasty plates.
We did a stromboli. I did my first stromboli presentation, shall I call it? I was making stromboli like a couple of weeks ago, and just taking pictures and sending them as I'm making it, and then it was fun. But I mean, I guess that's along the lines of what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, and again, it's sort of a mindset change, and we get this a lot, particularly with Generation X, in terms of who cares about what I'm doing? Like, who cares about this micro thing that I'm doing? But again, it's harking back to what I just said about your mundane is actually very interesting to people. There is a very big reason why reality TV is popular. And there's a very big reason why the Kardashian show is popular, because people like to see you live your everyday life. That's just the state of our culture right now.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like you're like looking to through your own lens. So if it's just don't expect anything, like you're saying, like just share everything. You don't know who is gonna find that interesting as you are finding it. So just don't look at it for your own lens, right?
Yeah, and you need to have that, like step back and say, there's a lot of people who I'm sure are listening to this and saying, well, I don't have a LinkedIn, I don't have a Facebook. It's like, well, you don't, but so much of the world does. That's where their attention is. So, you can't really sell to everyone. Like, yes, you can run a TV commercial, but guess what? Not everyone's watching that channel. So you're going to hit a lot of people by being out there. So don't apply what you do in your life to, what you think you should be doing. And say, well, yeah, maybe you're not interested in people posting pictures of food, but a lot of people are. So you need to get outside of your own head a little bit.
All right. Exactly.
I can do that. I love that. Cool. Well, guys, if it's okay with you, we've reached that point in the show where we can do our questions, and so we have two people today, Ingrid. So this will be more fun. So go ahead and ask your first question, Ingrid.
Okay, so the answer is the first thing on your mind. Who would you like to talk to if you would have the possibility to go to the past? I mean, even from the area like paleontology, whatever area is, if you had that chance, I mean, who would you talk to? Who would you pick?
For as a podcast guest, you said, or
no?
Just
who would you like
to talk or throw a question or whatever you want to ask to that person?
I think we have the same person in mind, right?
Probably.
Yeah, you say it.
That's
Gary Vaynerchuk. We've already met him.
We've already met him, yeah.
We want to meet him again.
Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V.
Well, the who is because he's like popped up on like 4 different episodes. That's just my who. It's okay. Good.
Yeah.
That's mine too. So I'm with you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Rick, your turn.
Okay.
They didn't say what they are going to ask to Vaynerchuk.
Oh, to Gary?
Oh, yes.
I mean, in terms of asking him again, without overthinking, my first question would probably be, how do you do it? Because when I watch him do his vlogs, right?
Mm-hmm.
The guy is, going from 8 a.m. to like 12 a.m., meeting all these people and all this stuff. And he's just so energetic and I love it. But we're talking about self-awareness, right? I'm a natural introvert. I mean, I might not show it here, but, I recharge by being alone. So when I see him do his thing and like, I just kind of want to see what he would say if I asked him, how do you just do it? And I'm sure he's going to say something like, it's just my nature, right?
Yeah.
Again, self-awareness. But what about you?
Yeah, I would just say thank you. Because a couple of years back, I mean, again, being, quite open and vulnerable here, I went through a pretty tough time in my life, and he was someone who his videos and content, pulled me out of that place. So, I feel like I owe him a lot, actually. So I'd just like to thank him yet again.
Yeah, again.
Cool. That is awesome. That is awesome.
That's great.
So my question for each of you is, one of the things I always look, I guess I kind of am drawn towards leaders, whether it's, in whatever capacity, let's say. And so I asked the question of you guys, I mean, who are a couple of people who each of you would you guys look to as leaders that you respect or might, model certain parts of your own leadership or whatever to?
That's a really interesting question. Bezos certainly comes to mind. Just, with what he's built is pretty phenomenal. I always forget his name, but the gentleman who founded Zappos, I always think is a very interesting story. Tony Hsieh.
Tony Hsieh. There we go.
And, also Elon Musk is someone who I very much admire with his looking at things a little bit differently and outside the box and tenacity, I would say as well.
Sure.
Yeah, in terms of, and no, you've got me on the mind of bigger entrepreneurs, but Sarah Blakely also comes to mind for me, just in terms from the female side, because there's a lot of unspoken truths about being a female entrepreneur that aren't always shared because it's kind of vulnerable. Sometimes when you're a woman, you can be doubted inappropriately, or you get a lot of different emotional blocks, et cetera, which is what I've experienced. But looking at her content has helped me bridge that gap and understand that, yeah, she has this $1 billion business now, but it came from a lot of grit. And it's not like she had this perfect business plan. It's not like she had everything in place. She felt that spark and went for it. Right. And that resonates with me. So that's someone I would definitely rate as up there for leadership.
Awesome.
That's so great.
Going back to you.
I don't have any more questions. I just want to really, really thank you guys. You've been really, really helpful for us. Yeah, to managing our social media strategy, to managing, to motivate us, really. So I really want to thank you for that, and thank you for being here, for accepting this invitation. And I hope to have another episode. We have so many things to talk about, and I am more than happy to have you in another.
Yeah, same. We would love to be on here again. Appreciate you guys having us on here. We love talking this stuff. So whenever we get the chance, right? And we, enjoy talking with you guys. So really appreciate the opportunity to be on.
Listeners and audience, we really thank you also for listening to this episode. And don't forget to follow us in our socials, and see you in the next one.
All right. See you next time, guys.
Bye. Thanks so much.
Bye. Thanks.
That was great, guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, cool. I like that. I like what we were talking about. Good questions overall. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I should have said really good. Yeah. Excellent. So when
you guys are getting into the routine of doing it now, you got your little system, you got your format, you got your everything organized.
Everything you guys have been teaching us.
Yeah. We love it. We love the execution.
This is fun.
Yeah.
I look forward to it.
Oh, give me 1 second. We need to take
the picture.
Yeah, us too. It's a good point. That's a good point.
You just screenshot it. You don't need to use your camera.
I'm going to take a selfie.
What is that? Let's say
selfie, and then I can tag you, and then I take one of you guys.
Okay.
Selfie. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'm just going to take a quick screenshot here if you don't mind.
Okay.
All right. I'll do a countdown. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Cool. Thank you.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much again. We just have so much respect for you guys and what you guys do, and appreciate you guys. We appreciate you guys jumping on with us. So I guess until next time.
See you soon.
Yeah. Looking forward to it.
Appreciate your kind words. Can't wait till the next time.
Awesome. All right. Bye.
Have a good one.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Bye. Well, everyone, thanks for listening to the show. We hope that you've enjoyed it.
We would love to hear your feedback or review. If you loved it, drop us a line. Let us know what business topics are on your mind. We'll make sure to talk about it in an upcoming episode.
If you have any questions or you would like to be featured on the show, message us on social. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Epiphany. We'd love to hear from you.
Thanks again for listening. We look forward to seeing you next time on Epiphany Off the Cuff.